Hi everyone, it's Leandra behind the camera today for the Trainer Tip Tuesday. And today joining me here for this video is Lydia, whose voice you might recognize if you called into the office. She's our office manager and intake manager here in the Lexington, Kentucky office. And with us today is Holy Redeemer. He's a 2018 gelding. He just came in. You might be able to see he has an old tendon that is what we consider cold, which means that it literally doesn't have heat in it anymore, but it's old and it's set. But visually, sometimes they just don't go back to the way they are. And if you're more of a horse connoisseur, usually when you can see it like that, that means that it is the SDFT, the superficial digital flexor tendon. So there's a free tip for you. But today, Lydia and I were planning on showing you how to handle a horse who might be a little bit more feisty, because Holy Redeemer, while he's just been here for a short amount of time, I guess has become a little bit of a more problematic to lead out, he agrees, to the round pens in the morning. He can rear sometimes, he just gets excited. But because we all know horses, it does not seem that it is the case today, right now I should say, that he is as excitable. So it'll be a little bit hard for us to show you how excitable he is because he just isn't right now. So I think it's a perfect lesson as to the fact that horses are not always predictable. And even if you feel like you know a horse day to day, or even from beginning to afternoon, they can be a little bit different. For you guys who are just joining on or just didn't hear it before, this is Holy Redeemer. He's a 2018 gelding. He had just 5 starts on the track. Most recently, he raced in February, and he does have a tendon on his right front. That's why he's over at our rehab barn over here, which is right across the street from the training barn in Lexington, Kentucky. So Lydia, I'm gonna just have you walk him down the driveway so people can see him walk, 1. And 2, because we'll just see if maybe from sort of one sample walk that I did before the video to now anything has changed, which it doesn't seem like it has. And you guys can tell me your experiences, but I know with my personal horse, he is not a morning guy like maybe some of you people. He acts like he's exhausted every morning. You practically have to drag him out to the field. And then in the afternoon, he's all buzzed up and ready to go. Horses can be like that too. They can just have times that they're more energetic or not. It's really common for us to see horses who are really excited going out to turnout and then are able to expend some of that energy. And then they act a little more mellow in the afternoon, which might just be the case with Holy Redeemer. Lydia, let's do a trot with him. He said, I'm ready for it. So there you go. That's a perfect example, because just a moment ago, he didn't care a thing about trotting, and now he's decided it's very exciting. So Lydia, hold on 1 second there. I'm going to come to you. So we'll do a little bit of what we were originally planning on now, which is talking about how you handle those sort of situations when you have a horse who may or may not be a little bit flighty or spooky. In this case, there's not really anything setting him off. He's just a young gelding. We don't really need to label it. He just is excited. So in those situations, it might be your normal instinct to grab a hold. And it is important, of course, to hold onto that lead rope and to not let them go in a free-for-all run around, because thoroughbreds especially are very athletic. Let's just say things could turn out very poorly if you let them loose. So we don't want to let go of the lead rope, of course. We want to stay out of harm's way. So how can we do that best in a situation where they might be a little excited? So like I said, natural instinct might be to instantly grab, stiffen your arm. And that just will, while it might be natural instinct, if we can work on repetition and training your brain to not, it's actually going to make things a lot easier if you can kind of follow their movement or apply a pressure that then has a moment of release. And what that does is that it gives the horse an opportunity to relax from the bracing. The bracing is what they'll feel the pressure against, and that gives them back into that feedback cycle of wanting to go up or wanting to throw their head around or whatnot. So he's getting a little impatient. Let's have you walk him forward again. Let's follow you in this. So let's try to keep your eyes forward, and you're going to ask him to stop because he's just being a little impatient. You can see the first thing he did was pull against your hand. So now let's squeeze and release your hand. You're going to ask him sort of to back up. Perfect. That's the response we want when he backs off. So let's walk forward again. Obviously, he's a little distracted and wanting to stay busy. So let's do the same thing. Squeeze and release. There you go. And then go right into a back up. Good. Now walk forward right away. So we want to train his responses to preferably not just pull against you. Now back him up, squeeze and release, and then walk forward, keep him engaged. Perfect. So that's a great exercise to continue every time that you're asking a horse to stop, to decelerate in any sort of way, to squeeze and release, stop and ask them to back up when you have the opportunity to do it, so that they have that mentality. You're also then asking them to engage those hind end muscles and just not be in that forward motion. So let's do the same thing. Stop, ask them to back up. In some cases, you can't do this if they're really in a high energy mode, but you still want to practice that squeeze and release just to decelerate, even if it's not stopping completely. So let's try to trot again. Just hold for a second though. What you're going to do is if you feel him start pulling against your hand, you're going to, try to brace against it hard. So stiff arm, we're going to see what he does. And then we're going to go back to a walk. We're going to try it again. And you're going to squeeze and release and try to have him come back to you that way. But you're going to more follow the motion. So say in your left hand in this situation, you're going to have the lead rope. You're not going to let go of that part. Your right hand is going to squeeze and release. Okay, let's try it. So let's try to stiff arm him first. Yeah, that's exactly what we expect in that situation where he feels the bracing. He feels the hard pressure, he braces against it, and you have sort of a high energy situation that's ideally we want to avoid. Let's do the same thing. And you're going to ask him to, that's fine, just back him up when he's getting a little nosy. Perfect. Let's walk forward, go right into it. So we'll turn around and do the same thing. And we're going to practice. So even now, let's sort of do the checking back like a half halt, squeeze, release. So even though we're not going to fix everything instantaneously, obviously, but in those moments where you apply pressure and he throws his head up against it, but then you have released that pressure in sort of a half halt on the ground, then he has a moment to think about it. And then if he wanted to brace against you, there's nothing to brace against, but you can then go into, squeezing again, squeeze, release, squeeze like you would a sponge. Yep. And then you have those sort of half halt type actions. And in that way, so even if he throws his nose up, because that's his default right now, and hopefully we reprogram that with things like backing up when you ask him to stop and just having that different response where he's giving his nose. So hopefully we can reprogram that initial knee-jerk response over time, but in the meantime, just to avoid those high energy situations that might lead to things like rearing or spooking or those situations that can easily escalate, we want to take that excess energy out of it by removing the thing that they're going up against without sacrificing your safety, without sacrificing the safety of the horse by letting go of the lead rope or anything. So you've now given yourself a tool to be able to handle those sort of situations and then hopefully strengthen that relationship with your horse, because like I said, it is natural instinct for people to want to grab to gain control, but real confidence comes from this ability to be the authoritative figure, but also understand the way that their brains work so that we can reprogram them, establish ourselves as a leader while also controlling a situation that can easily get out of control. So there you have it. Hopefully that will help you in the future with any sort of horse, whether it's a young thoroughbred off the track or any other horse who might have these sort of issues that you're trying to cope with. Hopefully that gives you another tool to be able to handle that so that you can work with these incredible creatures. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Holy Redeemer, who's the horse in this video. If you missed it, here he is. Lovely. And thanks everyone for joining us today on this Trainer Tip Tuesday.